Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Patterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, what's going on, everyone, here on a wonderful Tuesday? I've gotten mixed up here with the long weekend. We're back, Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Michael Remis hosting in the big chair for Hustler, who's on his way back from Aikens Lake. Some great fishing on, what do they call it, master, anglers, shore lunch, all the good stuff there at Aikens. So can't wait to hear about that tomorrow, but I'm so pumped to be here on a Tuesday, long weekend. It's got me confused. Here on a Tuesday, bit of an interesting week. The Bombers enter the bye week. Big win. Got to be feeling good after that performance. I know the whole city, everyone you talk to on the weekend, buzzing over that 25-0 shutout over the BC Lions. Didn't see that one coming. Still buzzing. It's going to carry us through the week. We're going to talk about that with Jeff Hamilton later. Are the Bombers back? Is this defense elite? And what can we see going forward as they have a bit of an easier schedule heading into the second half? We are, kind of at the halfway, just finished week 9 of the CFL season, week 10 this week. And if you're not talking about the Bombers, everyone talking about the Olympic Games, a number of highlights from the weekend, 100-meter hammer throw. We're a hammer throw nation now. And we just finished the basketball. Canada eliminated by the host country, France. It's funny. It feels like Canada's played France in just about every sport. 3-on-3 basketball, women's soccer, rugby sevens, men's basketball. Is there a couple other I'm missing? It always seems like Canada against France and Canada losing in this one today. Disappointing ending for Canada basketball team. We got a great show coming up. Going to talk more Olympics with Jesse Campigotto of CBC and the Buzzer newsletter, one of the most comprehensive write-ups about Olympics, what you need to know out there. So I'm looking forward to that. We had him on a couple weeks ago to preview the games, and we'll do a little mid-games update as we're winding down. We're at the home stretch here. I've gotten into this great routine. All the awesome event, all the events, 11 go until like 2, close to 3 Central Time, and then it's over, and you can still catch it on the nightly recap shows. Those are very fun. Jeff Hamilton, I mentioned, of the Winnipeg Free Press, coming on. Bombers talk. How do you feel about the Bombers at the bye? Are you feeling better? Didn't think we'd be having playoffs, but hey, they're in a hunt there. They're in the hunt with Calgary, who did win, pulled out a fourth quarter comeback against the Argos. And Saskatchewan, they lost, but it sounds like they're getting Trevor Harris back very soon. And lastly, we'll talk Joey Slattery, Sea Bears. Their season is over. Almost pulled it off against the Calgary Surge in target time. They were down. You tied it up. Next basket wins that it often is in CEBL, and just weren't able to put one through the basket. And their season is done. A lot of questions about the Sea Bears season. I thought there were much higher expectations. Last year was, hey, first season, happy to have a team, happy to be in the league, fans going crazy. This year, fan support increased. Although last year they hosted a playoff game, this year had to go on the road, and a lot more player movement with the Sea Bears than we saw last season. Last year, there was 0, which is an anomaly for that league, seems like. And this year, I don't think so often you're going to be cutting your previous season's MVP mid-season. So a lot of guests. And we got to thank our sponsors. We're going to get to Connor Hrabchak in just a second. Consolidated Supply, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend, Beer Can, Rollies, Garage, Living, of course, yes, CFL 110 with Hustler and Jeff Hamilton coming out tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to that on podcast. Assiniboia Downs Manitoba Derby went yesterday. Shout out to Bricklayer, won the 76th running of the Manitoba Derby. And the Winnipeg Goldeyes, who are on a bit of a heater. We'll get to that with Connor as well. Time to bring in the man, you've seen him all over this YouTube channel. This guy didn't work or didn't take the long weekend off. Connor, what's going on, man? How's it going? How was your long weekend?
It was great. I actually, you mentioned the beer can there. I did go to the beer can yesterday. Great spot. And there was some like athletic event going on right in front. And then everyone, after they finished the athletic event, walked in, got some food, got some beer. So it was a really nice spot, really gorgeous day yesterday. Spent the weekend at the ballpark, the Gold Eyes, with a 4-game series from Friday to Monday. And then, the 2 new videos on the channel, WST Weekly, which comes out every Monday, and my top 5 Winnipeg Jets prospects. Go check that out after the show today, if you haven't already. But yeah, great long weekend. And then today, just watched Canada's basketball team. Incredibly disappointing against France. The game just wrapping up just now. Losing, not medaling, one of the most talented Canadian basketball teams ever. And they're out just like that.
Yeah, Canada was set in such a dogfight to get into qualifying. Just getting to the games was an accomplishment. Getting all the players to buy in. They had their most talented team. Jamal Murray, he's there. SGA is in there. RJ Barrett having an MVP caliber performance, but not enough to take down the host country France. And they seem to be behind early and chasing the game the entire time. They made it close, but France just kept pulling away. 23-10 after the first quarter. They were just behind it the whole game.
Yeah, behind it the whole game. And Jamal Murray, one of those players that when you look on paper, he's an NBA champion. That he's one of the reasons why Canada had such high expectations. And then you look at the box score. I didn't watch the final 2 minutes, but when I turned the game off, he was 3 for 12. He had a couple back-breaking turnovers, wasn't contributing anything defensively. So these are the questions that need to be asked with this team. Is like, it looks great on paper. Jamal Murray, household name, NBA champion. But when it comes down to it, you play the host team France, he's not one of your best players, you're not going to win. And if you look at France, they have Victor Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert, most notably, are their NBA players. Those 2 players didn't even have good games. It was these random players that no one's really ever heard of, at least from an NBA scene, that made the difference for them. 2 of their bench bigs and a guard who had, I think, led their team in points. And then again, Dan Schulman, the play-by-play guy, saying France, this guy who's lighting it up, was like their 8th or 9th option coming into the tournament. And now he was their best offensive player, better than Victor Wembanyama, former number 1 overall pick in the NBA, rookie of the year. So you need those unsung heroes. And when you're Canada and you have the big names and they don't show up, that's a problem. The only player that really showed up for Canada today was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as he did all tournament long. But outside of him, questions definitely need to be asked about some of the efforts from the players.
Yeah, these are big name NBA All-Stars. Jamal Murray, 7 points in this one, 3 for 15, or 3 for 13 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. And his shooting numbers for the entire tournament, not great. And Dylan Brooks, 2 points, 1 for 9 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Not going to get it done. It was great to be at the Olympics, but I think we thought Canada would be, in a medal match, competing for bronze, possibly gold. Not to be. USA taking on Brazil, I think very soon, if not already underway. We are doing the show here right now. But Connor, a lot of Olympics, it's funny, Olympics, there's been so many, I guess, viral moments that have nothing to do with the sport, whether it's Tyler Mizlachuk throwing up immediately after the game, that Turkish shooter going with his hand in his pocket.
Oh, that was awesome.
Or over the weekend, it was the pole vaulter whose junk got in the way of the pole. Yep. That was being shared a lot. But, as far as on field, in play things over the weekend, this is our first time chatting. What stood out to you over the weekend from the Olympics?
Well, hammer throw, we won a gold in that. I didn't even know. You said off the top, I guess we're a hammer throw nation now. I didn't even know that we were, had a chance to win a gold in that, but we did. Yesterday, I watched the 200-meter qualifiers where Andre DeGrasse, that's his best event. And he was right there. Noah Lyles, the American, he won the 100-meter gold. So he's the fastest man alive, if that's or not alive. That's Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
But currently the fastest man. Sorry, gotta make sure I get that right. But 100 meter, and then that's his event as well, 200 meter. And DeGrasse was right there in his heat, finished second. Lyles finished first. So that was fun to watch as well. I think the semifinals go Wednesday, and then the finals for that go Thursday. And he was a flag bearer for Canada, so I'll be excited to watch him going forward in the 200 meter.
Yeah, Andre DeGrasse not making the final this year in the 100 meter. I mean, that was the fastest 100 meter collectively that we've seen. Noah Lyles winning 9.79, and Keishane Thompson also 9.79, but there's like 0.005 difference. So yes, Noah Lyles gets the title, 100 meters, world's fastest man. Keishane Thompson, his foot got in there, but it was Noah Lyles' chest which broke the plane first. So Keishane, you just missed the title of world's fastest man that much. How about Curley in third, 9.81, 0.02 seconds off, and just incredible times here, 9.82. So you're like 0.03 seconds off the fastest time for the gold medal, and you get nothing. Simbane from South Africa. It's amazing the margin of victory, and Katzberg winning the hammer throw. I mean, how about this guy's luck? I have a feeling he could be like the next John Montgomery. I mean, when he won skeleton in Vancouver, skeleton's like, no one really knew you're going down head first instead of feet first. It was the chugging of the beer. I feel like Katzberg, he looks like that kind of guy that you do want to have a beer with. He's got the long hair, he's got the mustache, and man, he can throw. I think that was one everyone talking about. Hammer throw, not really an event that you're tuning into, is it, Connor?
No, I saw that one on my social media. Said, "Oh, we won gold in hammer throw. That's pretty cool." I wasn't seeking that one out, but hey, congrats to him. That's pretty cool. And yeah, the look, the mustache, the full hair, the kind of mullet going on, like that's a good look.
Yeah, and the hammer throw, we talked before the Olympic, Canada is a hammer throw nation. Cameron Rogers, I think that's underway right now. She is going for gold in the women's hammer throw. Other events today, women's 200 meter final coming up, and the men's 200 meter final. I think that is on Thursday. Mm-hmm. The other events that took place on the weekend, disappointing finish for Canada's women's soccer, falling just short in penalties to Germany. I'm not sure how to feel about Canada's women in the soccer. They were gold last time. You want to follow that up. They had an amazing round robin, winning every game, but there's so much controversy about the drone and the coaches getting sent home. I know, you want lost in penalties. I don't think you can get too upset about that, but just disappointing the way it all went down.
100%. And if they don't have the point deduction which a lot of people had an issue with, penalize the coaches, not the team. It was the common saying on Twitter. But I mean, do they get an easier draw round one than Germany? And even having said that, they outplayed Germany in the second half. I watched that game. The first half was a little bit more even, a little bit more Germany sided. But then the second half, Canada it was all in their end, tons of chances. And then if it goes to penalties, I mean, it's like a shootout in hockey, right? It's just like, whatever. You'll see what happens. There's no real advantage one way or the other. But clearly Germany knew what they were doing. A lot of shots right off the post and in penalties, which are virtually unstoppable from that distance. So if they were going to win that game, it was going to be in the second half when they outplayed them. And the Canadian women's team has to be proud with how they played, with all the controversy, with the point deduction, and taking Germany to penalties in the quarterfinals. I thought they played great in the second half. And then, yeah, the penalties are like, whatever. You kind of shrug your shoulders. You're proud. You had a great tournament, but it is what it is.
I'm curious how they move forward. They're probably going to have to find a new coach. Well, they will, at least for a year, I'm assuming, going forward. Just it was supposed to be the highlight for Canada at the games, was not. And we'll talk more Olympics. Jesse Campigotto, he's got an article at the CBC website. He's got his newsletter, The Buzzer. Is this Canada's best games ever? I mean, how many medals was it as of now? I think it was 17, 5 golds, and expected to get more, possibly one coming later today. with hammer throw. We mentioned Andre DeGrasse in the 200, Canada in the 4x100. There's also Marco Arop in the 800 meter coming up moving forward. But going from the Olympics to CFL, the Bombers got it going on Thursday, 25-0 win. Montreal winning 33-16, although Caleb Evans, he's out for the year. They signed former Bombers quarterback Dominic Davis. He's been a backup for a number of years. But I think the shocker of the weekend was Edmonton upsetting Saskatchewan 42-31. Seems like they made the right move, finally starting Trey Ford, with Edmonton getting their first win of the season.
And let's not flash back to Friday when we went through the cool bet lines and I said, I don't get how Saskatchewan's only a 5.5 point favorite here. And then Edmonton wins outright by 11 points. Let's just flush the tape on that one. But Trey Ford, how is this guy sitting on the bench for the first 7-8 weeks of the season? That's an incredible game to go into Saskatchewan, the top team in the West, the best defense. We saw what that defense did to Zach Collaros 2 weeks ago. And Trey Ford just lights them up like it's no big deal. And Edmonton gets their first win of the year. From a Bombers perspective, this is great because you just beat BC. They're at 5 wins. Saskatchewan just lost. They're at 5 wins as well. You're at 3. You mentioned off the top that Calgary had a fourth quarter comeback and won, which you don't like to see. Winnipeg still fighting for positioning with them. But the West is kind of for the taking. The Bombers have a bye now. They'll get a little bit healthier theoretically. And then after that, they've got BC, they've got Hamilton, and then they've got Saskatchewan twice. So they've kind of control their own destiny in the West here. They play the teams ahead of them going forward, except for Calgary, who they have the season series over. But if you're a Bombers fan, you liked the results over the weekend outside of Calgary, and Edmonton beating Saskatchewan the way that they did too was a crazy shock. It's the crazy football league, the CFL, and that was just another example of it.
Yeah, this was the week of the upset. The Bombers winning 25-0 over BC, who had the best offense coming in. Vernon Adams injured. Sounds like he's going to be out for this upcoming week. They're playing Edmonton, who just shocked everyone. And yeah, Edmonton getting their first win against Saskatchewan, but good news for the Rough Riders. Trevor Harris, he might be back sooner than we think. And I think I said this on Friday. I was always very confused by Edmonton bringing in McLeod Bethel Thompson. Well, one, they signed Taylor Cornelius before for this massive contract, and he was never particularly great and didn't want to go to Trey Ford. And again, last year, Trey Ford comes in, wins a couple games. You think they're building something, building towards having a competent football club. And, they kind of threw it all away by signing MBT to this $500,000 contract. I don't know if that, fractured the locker room or anything, but it seems strange when, Trey Ford's been drafted to be this guy who's your starting quarterback, and they seem to have no belief in him. But when he comes, he's been the only guy who's been able to win games for them. And to Bethel Thompson's credit, he was pretty good in the first 3 games, but after that, he was not very great. And the defense, they gave up 31 points last game. The defense hasn't been good all year, but hey, they scored 42. Geno Lewis was this awesome receiver in Montreal, has done 0 in Edmonton, but all of a sudden, he comes in, he had 2 catches of 41 yards. Tevin Jones, did he have 3 catches, 123, but it was Javon Leake with the run game. You kind of have Trey Ford, who's got this running, throwing threat, which opens lanes for Javon Leake, who had the big run, and 3 rushing touchdowns. If you had him in fantasy, you were doing pretty good.
Did you see, I want to ask Remis, did you see Javon Leake on one of his touchdown runs that was like 40 plus yards, reached a speed of, I want to say 23.5 miles an hour, which is faster than any player in the NFL reached last season, faster than Tyreek Hill. I think only 3 players reached 23 miles an hour or higher last season in the NFL. It was Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, and the Canadian Chase Brown, who plays for the Bengals. And Javon Leake, here it is, reached the fastest speed, 22.25 miles per hour, faster than any NFL ball carrier last season. Shout out Ben Grant for that information. But that's crazy.
Okay, I saw this tweet.
You don't buy it?
CFL tweeted out, that's what you call speed, and said Javon Leake reached 35.8 kilometers an hour on the second touchdown of the game, because they have some data-enhanced feed. They show all that stuff, and only 3 players in the NFL passed 22. and that was faster than anyone. I don't know if I watched it. It didn't look like he was going that fast. Maybe because it's so much open straightaway, like faster than Tyreek Hill. I don't know.
That's the part that gets me. I could see like the wider field and maybe the camera angle make it so that it doesn't look like he's running that fast. But Tyreek Hill, I mean, that guy's got real speed. Like, I think Tyreek Hill could run in the 100-meter in Paris and do just fine. So I don't know. But yeah, 35 kilometers an hour. He's speeding in a school zone. He's going real fast. But yeah, I don't know if I buy it. But
I can't even bike that fast for an extended period, 35 kilometers an hour. That's I don't know. I'll have to see. I mean, we'll see how he does going forward. We're winding it down. We're going to bring in Jesse Campigotto of CBC to talk Olympics shortly. But I wanted to chat with you. You've put out the Winnipeg Jets top 5 prospect rankings. And I don't want people to go watch it on our channel, but one thing that stood out to me is I don't think this is spoiling anything, but Ville Heinola, he was the number 1 last year, or he was, I forget what it was, number 1 or 2, not included on the list. Why is Ville Heinola no longer a prospect?
You're asking the hard-hitting questions here. I think he's aged out. What is he, 23 years old now? I think that's honestly 23, 24, soon to be maybe. I think he's too old to be a prospect at this point. And we're at the point where he's only going to play in the NHL. He can't go back to the AHL or else he'll be on waivers and someone will absolutely claim him if he gets put on waivers. So to me, if you are locked into an NHL spot this upcoming season, like, why wouldn't I include Cole Perfetti on the list then, right? He's played NHL games. I guess he's graduated a little bit more. So has Ville Heinola. But I think he's too old. And I think all the other players haven't made the NHL yet that I included on the list. Ville Heinola has, albeit in a very limited sample. And this upcoming season, he needs to prove himself as an NHL roster player, whether that's in the 7 spot, in the 6 spot, everyday player or not. I think he's graduated from being a prospect, and it's time for him to show his NHL talent, which we've seen in a limited sample, but are really unsure of at this point.
Yeah, 35 career NHL games. He's drafted in 2019. That's feels like yesterday, but was actually 5 years ago. And we always talk to Shane Malloy, Hockey Prospect Radio, author of The Art of Scouting. And he always says evaluate guys draft plus 5. You did the 2 parts of the prospects. Part 1 is 10 to 6. Part 2, 5 to 1. What did you learn about? Was there something you learned about the Winnipeg Jets prospects that stuck out, or that was a surprise?
Yes, that's a good question. I mean, I think I found out that their prospect pool is maybe a little bit deeper than people might think. This is I'll spoil a little bit of part 2, which came out a week and a bit ago, but I had Nikita Chibrikov at number 7. And Nikita Chibrikov, I think, could be a solid bottom 6 player as early as next season, never mind the next year after that, where he can maybe even move up to a middle 6 player. But we watched him in the NHL last year, right at the end of the season. In that one game, he scored the game-winning goal. He didn't look out of place at all, and I get it's only one game, but having a player like that, a second-round pick, he played well for the Moose last year, came to the NHL for one game, scored a goal, didn't look bad at all, and having him at number 7 felt kind of weird to me, but I wouldn't rank him ahead of any of the players that I had higher on the list. So I think maybe this prospect pool is a little bit deeper. You see them like routinely in the top 15 when prospect analysts rank teams' prospect pools. They're routinely in the top 15, top half of the league. But I think there's more prospects here that could make an NHL impact than people might think, not just the names at the top of the list, like a Lambert or McGroarty or a Barlow or Salamonson, whatever the case may be. I think there's 7 or 8 players in the prospect pool that you could see make an impact in the next 2 to 3 years.
And there was one player that you ranked, he was in the top 5 last year. I thought he'd fallen off. I thought we've kind of written him off as a prospect, but you made a great case as to why he should still be among the Jets' top 5 prospects. I don't want to go through the whole video here because I want people to watch it, but I I was done on Chaz Lucius. I thought, well, they'd be lucky to get him. But you're still high on him. You still have him as the Jets' 5th best prospect, and I don't want to ruin your whole video, but I appreciate that you had such conviction saying, hey, this guy, don't count him out yet.
Yeah, I still believe in Chaz Lucius. Not only has he gotten incredibly unlucky with injuries, and you can call him injury prone, and I said in the video, if you have him lower because of the injury problems, I totally get it. But even when he's healthy, when he's in the lineup, whether it's the AHL, his limited stint in the WHL when he was there a few years ago, he's produced. He played 17 games this year and had 13 points in those games. And despite the fact he's been hurt years leading up to those 17 games that he played this year, he still produced in those 17 games. So until I think it's kind of stunted his development a little bit, but until I see Chaz Lucius really affected on the ice by the injuries to the point where he stops producing at a high level, I don't feel like knocking him down is fair. I do think that he's gotten really unlucky with injuries, and if he can stay healthy for one season and produce at a really high level, that's where he'd be. He'd be at number 5. He'd be in the conversation with the number 4 prospect. Go check it out. But I really do think that despite all the injuries, he's produced, and if he's able to stay healthy, he'll continue to produce because there's a really talented player under all the injuries here. And I'm not ready to bump him completely off the list or even a few spots down just quite yet, because I believe that if he stays healthy, he'll produce at a high level.
Yeah, and we're not going to reveal which number he is on, but Scardy asking, is McGroarty still on the list? And you included him. I think that's the right call. He is still, part of the Winnipeg Jets organization. There's no reason to take him off. There's certainly some uncertainty about how long he's still going to be with the Jets, but as of now, you have to rank him.
Yes, absolutely. And I made the case that even if he never plays a game in a Jets uniform, they still need to treat him as a prospect. And where I ranked him, you'll see, but they need to treat him as that level of a prospect if they're looking for a trade return as well, just as if they were going to trade Brad Lambert or anything like that. So I still put him on the list. He's still technically a Jet. He may never play, but even if they trade him, they should still believe in him as and get fair value for him back.
All right, Connor, thank you so much for taking the time. We'll catch up again at the end of the show. And if you missed that, check out Connor's Winnipeg Jets prospect rankings and his edition of Jets Weekly, all on our YouTube channel here. Talk to you in a bit, Connor.
Talk to you in a bit.
And if you're here, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button. Tells YouTube we're putting out some great content and might show it to some more people who don't know what we're doing here. I'm so pumped to be joined by Jesse Campigotto of CBC coming up next. But first, Hustler's here with a couple of messages.
Hey, I mentioned CFL 110, which is live right now, is brought to you by our friends at Garage Living Winnipeg. I mentioned I saw Pat at the Goldeye game last night, and he asked me if I needed a lift. I said, I'm good. I'm getting an Uber. He said, no. Do I need a car hoist? In addition to organizing your garage from top to bottom, Garage Living sells hoists for your classic or special interest vehicle. Pat actually just came back from the Okanagan where he visited the distributor of Performance Hoists to check out the operation to see all their products. Garage Living Winnipeg can set you up with a single or double hoist. If you've got a 10-foot ceiling, it automatically doubles your parking space. They also have smaller hoists for your motorcycle or snowmobile. So for all you sled heads out there, how great would it be to have a hoist to work on your machine instead of crawling around on the floor this winter? Give Pat a call if you need a lift or want more information on a garage consultation to revolutionize your space. 204-999-1234. Or visit their website at garageliving.com where you can see everything else they do for an extreme garage makeover or a minor one, flooring, cabinets, and other storage solutions. 999-1234. That's Pat for a free in-garage consultation. Garage Living Winnipeg, garages made for living. Shout out to our friends at Rowley's Transfer. I had a great chat with Ryan. They are busy right now, as it's moving season. And of course, they have an extensive logistics business that takes them around the province on a daily basis, which of course, whether you're moving in the city or in southern Manitoba, gives you flexible routes and timing and great rates. Now, if you have a move why not get the white glove treatment from the best and the most trusted name in moving for over 60 years, family owned and operated in Rollies Transfer. Check out their new website at rollies.com, and you can see right up at the top right, there's a request an estimate or request a quote feature. Click on that. Let them know when and where you're moving, when you need to move it, and also let them know that you're a WST listener, because not only will you get the best quote in town, you'll get a little extra discount if you use the promo code WST on moving services and moving supplies. So for your next move, make it Rollies, the most trusted name for over 60 years in moving here in Manitoba. Use the promo code WST and get a special deal, and get moving and get the as much of the stress out of the move thanks to our pals at Rollies Transfer. The gang at Consolidated Supply has so much going on there that many of our customers and many of our listeners have popped by there for one thing and ended up coming back for others. Listen, we've had a lot of rain earlier this summer, and it certainly stressed a lot of properties. Consolidated Supply are the irrigation specialists with the leaders in irrigation systems and solutions. But they've also got artificial turf. Golf Carts is the exclusive club cart dealer in Manitoba with great new carts, used carts, as well as all sorts of features to trick yours out if you want to take your golf cart to the next level. But other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens. Not to mention they're the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by Consolidated Supply. See them at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, and find out more online at cte.ca. And while everyone is thinking about the beautiful weather and getting away on the weekend to max out their summer fun, whether you're camping, you're boating, whether you're on ATVs, you got to have batteries, folks. And Manitoba Battery is the spot where you can shop local, keep your money in the community, and get the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores. Pop by and see them on Logan Avenue, their original location, or their new location on Dover Court. And hey, we know how busy you are. How about this? Best service in town. They'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere in the city of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Pop by and see them today, just in time for the weekend, or check them out online at manitobabattery.com.
There's us. He's away fishing. He'll be back tomorrow. We'll hear all about it. Hear all about the master anglers and the shore lunches and how he kept track of all the sports on his phone, because you can do that now. I was at Icelandic Festival in Gimli. I'm watching the soccer shootout on my phone. What a time we live in. You can follow everything. And one guy who's been following everything for CBC, check out his newsletter, The Buzzer, for the most comprehensive Olympic breakdown out there for Canada. Jesse Campigotto of CBC. Jesse, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us while we keep an eye on what's going on in Paris.
Yeah, my pleasure, Michael. Thanks for having me back.
Well, I got to start with what just happened. Canada thought they were a medal hopeful here in the basketball, but just couldn't quite put it together against France and their quarterfinal game that just happened.
Yeah, that was a tough one. They just looked out of sorts right from the beginning and tried to kind of get back in it towards the end. They were down by 19 at one point. Sort of made it a game, not really made it a game towards the end. But that's a big disappointment. I mean, France is the host team. They've got Victor Wembanyama, who's the NBA Rookie of the Year, of course. They've got some other good pros, but Canada was an 8-point favorite in that game. And they were number 2 in the title odds. Basically, it was them and Germany neck and neck behind the United States. So this was a team that I thought at the very least was going to be playing for a bronze medal, if not get into that gold medal game against the States. And it just did not work out. So, yeah, that was a tough one today.
Certainly a tough one, but we're all got our eyes on the hammer throw. Cameron Rogers favored to win gold. And you mentioned, well, maybe disappointment over the weekend in soccer and basketball, but Canada 11th in the medal count, 5 gold, 4 silver, 8 bronze, 17 total. You wrote that this might be Canada's best summer games ever. Is it?
Tough to say right now. I think we're gonna have to wait and see how the next few days play out. But the way things are going, it's going to be right up there. Like you said, we've got 17 medals already. The national record's 24. That was set 3 years ago in Tokyo. And when I say record, I mean Summer Olympics record for a games that wasn't boycotted. We won a ton of medals in 84 in LA, but the whole Soviet bloc wasn't there, so the count was pretty inflated. So obviously, there's a lot more events now. So a lot of people have said, well, yeah, of course, we're winning more medals. There's way more events. But, the volume's a good thing. I mean, more medals means a better Olympics, whether you break it down percentage-wise. So, yeah, we're right on pace to maybe hit that record. So it's been a great game so far. We can talk about some of this great stuff that's already happened. And there's a lot of great stuff still coming up, especially on the track. So it's going to be a good next few days for sure.
Yeah, we're not wrapping it up quite yet. A couple days left, but I think there's been so many highlights here from the first week and a bit. What stood out to you so far as the highlight for Canada from the games?
Yeah, it's got to be Summer McIntosh for sure. So coming into the games, we kind of figured she'd be Canada's biggest star, and she really delivered. I'd say even went above and beyond. So she was favored to win 2 gold medals. She took care of those. And then there was a third solo event where it was kind of a 3-way toss-up between her and 2 other swimmers. She won gold in that, and she also took silver in that stacked 400 freestyle with Ariane Titmus and Katie Ledecky. So her individual events basically couldn't have gone better. 3 gold medals, that's a Canadian record for the Olympics. No one's ever done that before. The only sort of downside was her very last race. It was a relay. She was going for her 5th medal, which would have put her past Penny Oleksiak for the Canadian record for one Summer Olympics. Unfortunately, she dove into the pool. Canada was in the silver position at that point, and she faded pretty hard on her last lap and ended up missing the medal. So bit of a tough ending there, but I mean, you can't be mad at Summer. 3 golds, 4 medals. She definitely delivered. The other great one the other day was Ethan Katzberg in the men's hammer throw. So Canada hadn't won a hammer throw medal in 112 years, and he went out there and won gold. His first throw ended up being 4 meters further than anybody else's in the competition over 6 attempts. So he absolutely dominated that one. That was a great moment too.
Yeah, I mean, Katzberg, he's got this great look. We talked about the hair, the mustache, big arms. I mean, again, 4 meters ahead of the next person. It's big margin. We've seen some slim margins of victory here at the Olympics, but looking ahead, you say there's a lot of opportunities for Canada to medal. What should I be watching out for as we wind down the games?
Yeah, so as we speak right now, Cameron Rogers is competing in the women's hammer throw final. So she's the favorite there. She's the reigning world champ, just like Katzberg was. So after going more than a century without any Olympic hammer throw medals, we might be sweeping both gold medals here. So that's exciting. That's happening as we speak. Coming up a little bit later, we're going to have Andre DeGrasse in the 200-meter semis tomorrow. Hopefully he can move on to the final on Thursday. He's the reigning champ there. He's kind of more of a fringe podium contender, I would say now. He's just not quite on the level he was 3 years ago, but he's Andre. He always seems to come through in the big races, so we'll see. Then we've got Marco Arop in the men's 800-meter. He's the reigning world champ there. It's him and 2 other guys. It's going to be a great kind of 3-way battle for the gold there. We've got Mohamed coming up in the 5,000 later in the week. He had that great 10,000-meter race the other day where he went deep into that race, contending for gold. Ended up 4th, bit of a tough ending, but he looked awesome there, and he won silver in the 5,000 in Tokyo. So maybe he can contend for a medal. We've got Sarah Minton in the women's shot put. She's like a podium fixture, so I'd expect her to contend. And then we've got the 4x100 meter relay. So DeGrasse and friends there, they won the world title a couple years ago. Always a podium contender in one of the most exciting events. So a lot of good track stuff coming up for sure.
Yeah, swimming highlights the first week. I've really, I'm more of a track guy, maybe because there's different type of events where you can actually, they're not underwater. I'm not sure, but I'm more gravitated towards the track. So I've really been enjoying it over the weekend. You didn't mention breaking, Phil Wizard representing Canada. That's starting on Friday. Really intrigued to see what that looks like. We've talked about a lot of the, positives. There have been some disappointments. I mean, what did you make of Canada's women's soccer? That they were eliminated over the weekend. We talked about the basketball. Also, Damian Warner was not able to defend his gold in decathlon. I'm not sure if you want to speak to any of those.
Yeah, for sure. The Warner one was really tough. He obviously was the reigning Olympic champ, and his chances of repeating looked pretty good because Kevin Mayer of France, he's the world record holder. He pulled out with an injury. Pierce Lepage, Canada, reigning world champ, he was out with an injury, unfortunately. So it looked like Damien had a really good shot, and the pole vault got him. That's been his nemesis in the past, and he didn't get over the bar. So when that happens, you're not getting any points. You're out of the competition. So he pulled out after that. That was really tough. With him being the champ, he's a good guy. He's been around forever. Canadians love him. That was really tough. The women's soccer team, if you would have told me before the Olympics that they would lose in the quarterfinals, I would have said, you know what? Sounds about right. They kind of caught lightning in a bottle in Tokyo. It was an awesome run. You can never count them out. But I think going in the betting odds, they were something like 7th or 8th. So that would mean a quarterfinal loss. It was disappointing, though, in the sense that they came back from the drone gate scandal, which most teams would have probably just packed it up right there after the 6-point penalty. They won all 3 of their games, including those 2 must wins. So they were really on a roll, and I think there was some hope that they could maybe catch that momentum they had in Tokyo again, but it just didn't work out. So disappointing ending, but you know what? Good showing by them. I think they really did well for themselves to get to the quarters there.
Yeah, I thought they was done for them to win the 3 games that advanced to the quarters. Pretty incredible. One guy who, he's a flag bearer, Andre DeGrasse. You're telling me before we started that, while he was so great the last Olympics, maybe you should temper expectations a little as we head into the 200 final on Thursday.
Yeah, I think, people always think of Andre. He's always on the podium. Coming into these Olympics, he'd been in 6 Olympic events in his life, won a medal in all 6. But then that streak ended in the 100 meters. He didn't get past the semis. The 200 is his better event, but Noah Lyles, the American who won the 100 in that great photo finish the other day, the 200 is actually his better event. So he just won 100-meter gold. He's clearly on top of his game. He's a huge favorite to win that. You've got Kenny Bednarek, who's another American. You've got Arian Knighton. You've got Letziel Tabogo. There's just a lot of guys who, in the last 3 years, have kind of surpassed Andre. So I wouldn't count him out. He's still a great clutch racer. When the chips are down, he always seems to bring his best. But the odds do seem a little bit stacked against him this time. But yeah, he's going tomorrow in the semis, so hopefully he can at least get into that final. And then, hey, you never know. Maybe he's got one more great performance left in him.
Yeah, I saw him in one of the heats yesterday. He seemed to be saving himself for the final. We'll see how he does in the semi, as you mentioned, tomorrow. But he's certainly the flag bearer. But you have to put odds on the flag bearer for the closing ceremonies. I would think Summer McIntosh, heavy favorite. Maybe if they do co-gold and hammer throw, you could do Rogers Katzberg. I'm not sure if you have any other candidates here for the flag bearer at the closing ceremonies.
Yeah, I think you actually nailed it there. So Summer would be the obvious choice. However, she did fly back to Toronto, I think today or yesterday. Not saying she can't catch a flight and go back, but it's kind of unclear whether she's going to be around. If she can't do it, I was actually going to mention, I love that hammer throw pick. So for the opening ceremony, there's kind of not a rule, but the IOC has a suggestion that you pick a man and a woman to kind of share the role. For the closing ceremony, there's no guidelines really. You can do whatever you want. But I think it would be cool if Rogers does end up winning the gold today, her and Katzberg together would be awesome. Just the two of them, two big, strong athletes, two Olympic champs waving the flag. I mean, that would be perfect. So, you know what? That would be my pick.
It's kind of amazing at the Olympics. You see athletes of all different kind of shapes and sizes and even ages. Skateboarding coming up. What you mentioned, there's an 11-year-old and then also 51-year-old Andy McDonald, who I can't believe is still around.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the 11-year-old's from China. I think in fairness to her, she turns 12 in a couple of days. So she's getting up there. She might be getting near the end of her career. And then Canada's youngest athlete, Faye DeFazio Ebert. She's in skateboarding as well. She's in the same event as the 11-year-old. She's 14. So, and then, you have the 51-year-old guy from Britain. So I'm not a skateboarding expert. I don't really understand the sport too well, but I was telling Hustler the other day, I don't know what's going on with the age ranges there. We got like a 40-year age gap between some of the athletes. So yeah, that's kind of cool.
Some kind of record. Incredible. We talked a lot about Canada. Any other non-Canada stories stuck out to you so far as we're, 1 week plus into the games?
Yeah. So the best one I mentioned earlier was the men's 100-meter final was awesome. So we saw that photo finish. So Lyles won by 0.005 of a second, which is like basically an immeasurable quantity of time. You couldn't tell who won the race when they crossed it. It was him and Kashan Thompson from Jamaica. So to me, that was probably the funnest moment of the game so far. Looking ahead, Safan Hassan, who's a distance runner from the Netherlands. So she got a silver the other day in the women's 5,000. She actually came in third, but there was a disqualification ahead of her. So she ended up with the silver. So she's trying for a pretty incredible triple. So she's in the 5,000, the 10,000, and then she's going to do the marathon as well. So if she can get a medal on all three of those things, and she's got one down, two to go, that would be incredible.
Yeah, there's been some great moments all around. It's been a great game, so entertaining. Jesse breaking it all down at the buzzer, the newsletter for CBC. If you want to let people know how they can subscribe and become the smartest man when it comes to the Olympics.
Yeah, for sure. I just tell everybody, if you just Google the buzzer CBC, the sign-up page will come up. Just enter your email in there, and you'll start getting editions every day. They come out kind of late afternoon, early evening, depending what time zone you're in the country. Basically, every day I'll break down really quickly what happened that day, so you get a nice digest of what happened, and then I'll move on to the stuff to watch the next day. So you'll know what's coming up, and you won't miss any of the big events.
Have you? I know you're in Toronto covering the games, but have you changed your body clock to Paris time? It's always a challenge, when they're not in North America. We'll be lucky. The next one's going to be in LA, but how have you been managing the time change?
Not bad. I'm kind of an early bird, so I don't mind getting up early. LA will be tougher because the events will go deeper into the night. So try not to think that next few days. But yeah, it's been a great game. It's been exciting. So hopefully more medals for Canadians and more great moments over the last few days.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Jesse. Appreciate you coming on. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Yeah, perfect. There he is, Jesse Campigotto, CBC, The Buzzer. Great newsletter. Real comprehensive stuff when it comes to following the Olympic Games. So thankful that he was able to join us and hop on. We're going to move on from Paris 2024, go to the Bombers, CFL, maybe some Winnipeg Jets as well. Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press. He's going to hop in. But first up, let's go to Hustler for a couple words.
When you're going to Princess Auto Stadium for a Blue Bomber game, make sure you get there early and take in everything going on at the Princess Auto tailgate zone. The party gets going on before every game at 5:30, well, 2 hours before the game. Normally for 7:30 starts, 5:30 p.m. $5 beers, $3.50 poppin' hot dogs, inflatables for the kids. The OB pregame show is there. Lots of entertainment. It is the place to be before every Bomber game. And, of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers, and Winnipeg Sports Talk, proudly founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg with 2 locations to serve you with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. You can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. When you're thinking Bomber games, thinking good times, great crowd, and maybe a few drinks. And, of course, Canadian Club, the #1 choice of Blue Bomber fans for years, as the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Enjoy Canadian Club throughout the stadium, along with the Beam Suntory family of products. And don't forget, anytime this summer, that Canadian Club and Ginger Ale premix cocktail, one of the best drinks of the summer. You can pick that up at your local Manitoba liquor marts, or the next time you pop into the beer vendor, make sure to grab a few of those as well. Canadian Club, proud sponsors of WST and your Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We're loving these long weekends and weekends in general right now here in the summer, even just some holiday time. Far better to be enjoying it than spending all that time building a fence. If you've got fence needs, go to Wallace & Wallace, the experts in the game since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's done a number on your old one, give them a call. They've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And, of course, if you need a new garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors as well. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. And, of course, guys, it is wedding season as well. If you're going to one or planning, just looking ahead to the fall, and you look into your closet and realize you need to up your menswear game, get on down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. 15% discount for wedding parties. So if you're having a wedding or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F about a 15% discount when the fellas get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. They can use them long beyond the big day. Again, 190 Smith Street downtown. Make an appointment for a fitting or find out more online at F. That's EPHapparel.com.
There's Silly back tomorrow on his way back from Aikens Lake. We talked about a number of sports taking place in Paris 2024 at the Olympics. One we didn't touch on was tennis. So pumped to be joined right now by tennis analyst and world feed commentator John Horn. John, you've been seemingly traveling everywhere. What a summer it's been, hasn't it?
Just living the life of the tennis broadcast dream, I suppose. It's been a whirlwind going from place to place. So I was in Paris and then here, then go to Cincinnati after this, and then back to Paris for the Paralympics for wheelchair tennis, and then from there go to China for Davis Cup. So it's a busy time. Tennis never stops. There's always tennis going on somewhere. And it just happens to be the summer is usually the busiest. Although looking outside right now with the rain that we're having here, not exactly ideal for tennis. Can't play tennis in the rain. It's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, Globetrotter, John Horn, tennis analyst, World Feed commentator. John, I got to ask you about the Olympic tennis. How does the Olympic tennis differ from just a normal WTA or ATP tournament?
I mean, it's really not that different. The formats are the same. The draws are the same. It really depends on, the qualification system to get in. You can't just show up and get in. There's certain rules where you're only allowed to have a maximum amount of players per country. When the draw is made, let's say there's 4 Americans in the draw, you can't have all 4 of them in one side of the draw. They have to be split up evenly. So 2 on the top half and 2 on the bottom. So some players get in based on world rankings. Some players get in based on how many athletes their country has. So it's a little different than, say, a regular tour event where you're getting in based on your ranking and your seeding and wild cards and that sort of thing. So it is a little bit different that way. Really, when you get to the tournaments, the draws are pretty much, they're done the same. It's best of 3 sets. The players practice the same way. There isn't that much difference between an Olympic event or a regular event, but it's certainly fun. Like, you definitely, the vibe is different. It's a different crowd. You get tennis fans, but you also get fans of the country. So you'll see a lot of, say when Djokovic is playing, you'll see a lot of Serbian fans, not just tennis fans, but fans of the country of Serbia or of sport for Serbia. A lot of the outdoor, or a lot of the matches on the outer courts, the smaller courts were packed, and they were filled with, there was one night where the Dutch were playing doubles and it was packed, or the French were playing doubles and it was packed. So people really rally around the country, or around the countries. Even when Milos was playing, I can't remember who he was playing, but he's playing somebody from Germany, ton of German flags, ton of Canadian flags. It almost becomes like a Davis Cup kind of atmosphere. It's pretty cool.
You've been to so many events, John. I mean, how do you describe attending an Olympics for those of us who've never been and enjoying watching on TV?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different vibe for sure. It's certainly a country vibe as opposed to an individual vibe for a tennis tournament. You see a lot of flags of different countries out. You'll even be at matches that don't even involve athletes from those countries, and you'll see random flags. Like I saw Ireland flags at tennis. There are no Irish players even playing, but the flags are out. So it's definitely a cool atmosphere, a different atmosphere. I think you get a lot more sort of sport fans in general, not just tennis fans at tennis events. And I think you see that because there's a lot of events in the Olympics that people don't get to see very often or don't know that well. I don't know who follows the badminton tours or the table tennis tours or BMX racing, that kind of thing. But you'll see people who will just go because they want to check it out, or they think the sport is cool, or they want to get the experience. So that's the biggest difference, is you get a lot more fans of actual sport than you just do of the specific event. I mean, obviously you get specific, fans of the specific event that they follow the event year round. But for the most part, it's more of a general scope of sports fans than it is individuals.
As for the athletes, you have to think it was a successful tournament for Felix Auger-Aliassime, making it to the bronze medal match in men's singles. And he was busy winning bronze in mixed doubles with Gabby Dabrowski. What'd you make of Auger-Aliassime's tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, I was there for the mixed doubles final, the bronze medal match, rather. It was great to see. I mean, it's a cool moment. Canada hadn't won a medal in tennis since 2000 in Sydney, when Daniel Nestor and Sebastian Leroux won the doubles gold, which was a cool moment. There haven't been any medalists in tennis from Canada since, so it was cool that they were able to snag a medal, and they played really well in the match. I thought they looked really good as a team together. So who knows? Maybe we'll see them in a slam at some point playing mixed doubles. But Dabrowski is a very underrated player in terms of the doubles players just don't get the props that the singles players do. So when you actually watch her play, I mean, she serves really well, hits the ball really hard. Is a very good tactical player, is very well positioned on the court, knows exactly where to be. She's always moving. She knows the game very well, and you can see it from just watching her play doubles. So there were a couple games where Felix didn't play great, and she played really well and got them through the points. So cool moment for sure. It would have been nice if Felix was able to get the singles bronze as well, but to get a bronze medal and to come home with that, it's pretty cool. And I know in Toronto they're gonna do something with Dabrowski. I think tonight, maybe tomorrow. I can't remember. Which they're going to do a ceremony or something like that. So I think that's a cool thing. And anytime you win a medal, it's a great achievement, not just for yourself but for your country. And I think they're both pretty proud of their accomplishment, and as proud as they should be.
Yeah, very tight schedule for Felix, competing in both tournaments and then zipping home for the National Bank Open, where you are right now in Toronto, and also taking place in Montreal. But I mean, Matt talked about the men's bronze. How about the gold medal match? I mean, two all-time players in Djokovic and Alcaraz. Did Djokovic cement himself as the GOAT with adding a gold medal to his trophy case?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at all the accomplishments of what he's done over the years, we've always talked about Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, who of the big three is the best of all time. Now, if you're a Nadal fan, most people say Nadal. If you're a Federer fan, most people see Federer. If you're a Djokovic fan, most people say Djokovic. But I think that when you look at all the achievements that Djokovic has now, this is kind of like the icing on the cake. This is sort of the finale, put him over the top moment, I think. Federer has never won a gold medal in singles. He won a gold medal in doubles. He doesn't have as many Grand Slam wins. Nadal has also won medals in the Olympics in singles and doubles. He has less Grand Slam titles, and he has less tour title wins, less 1,000 event titles. The 1,000 being just below the Slam. So when you look at what Djokovic has accomplished, and you go top to bottom, the fact that he's got more Grand Slams than anybody, he's won more 1,000 events than anybody. He's also won each 1,000 event at least twice. He's now won a gold medal in singles. All his other accomplishments. He's won Fed Cup as well, or Davis Cup rather. For his country in Serbia. He's pretty much done everything. There's really nothing left for him to do. To me, he's the greatest of all time now. I mean, you can't argue just looking at the record books and everything he's accomplished. Is he the most liked of the three players? I'd say he's definitely third out of the three. I think there's more Nadal and Federer fans out there than there are Djokovic fans. But that doesn't take away from what he's done on the court. And he's obviously accomplished a ton. And I think he's a great player.
Thank you so much for your time coming on. You're a busy guy and getting back to the National Bank Open. What can we expect to see here in the annual tournament coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the play. I just wish it wouldn't rain. It seems like every year the tournament there's rain either in Toronto or Montreal or both. So it's almost impossible to get away from the rain. It rained the first day in Paris too, so it's not. Maybe it's something that I'm doing by showing up at these events. I don't know, but yeah, no. I mean, I think both events are going to be entertaining. I mean, yes, we don't have Djokovic and Alcaraz and Swiatek, the three big players who aren't here, but still on both sides, Yannick Sinner, world number one, is there in Montreal. You got Sabalenka, Coco Gauff are here in Toronto. Plethora of Canadians in the draw. I think there's 4 Canadian women. I think there's 4 Canadian men, maybe 5. Actually, it's 5, I think. And, you can see Milos Raonic again. Felix gets to come home and play. He's never really had a lot of success at home, mind you. Bianca's playing tonight. She obviously won this tournament in 2019. That was a big accomplishment for her and for Canada. So, looking forward to the event. It's always fun to see the top players. And, it's a 1,000 event, so there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of points on the line. And, they put on a good event. Tennis Canada does a really nice job of putting the events on. Both events, I think, are very well done. It's not just the tournament itself, but as a fan, if you're in Montreal or in Toronto, there's lots of activities going on. They have lots of good food and entertainment for the kids. We've got this little train that runs through the player area and through the crowd and everything. It's kind of cool, little train that the kids can go on. And there's lots of, you can hit balls for the hardest serve. There's face painting. There's, merchandise. There's all kinds of stuff. So it's a fun time. It's they do a really good job. It's expanded over the years to become even better and better. It's a good week on the calendar, and I think all the players really enjoy coming here. They always, wine and dine them with, events. They'll send them to a Jays game, or they'll have tickets to a show, or in Montreal, the same sort of thing. They'll have events for them to go to. So the players are well taken care of, and the facilities are really good. So it's a good week on the calendar. So looking forward to it.
All right, John. Thanks again. We'll catch up soon. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Always enjoy it. Thanks.
Hey, with this long weekend here, let's do it a little early and raise a glass to the weekend. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Generic Lager, your basic lager, just better. Little Brown Jug made the taste you crave with the name that says it all. With this impressively standard lager, whether you're at a Jets game, a Gold Eyes game, or watching from home, grab a cold one and cheers. Pick it up in all your Little Brown Jug favorites at Little Brown Jug in the Exchange District at 335 William Avenue, at your local LC or vendor, and of course at the ballpark and Canada Life Center as well. Another great spot to grab a Generic in 1919, especially with this beautiful weather we've got right now, is the beer can. If you're around town over these next beautiful few days and have not checked out the beer can, what are you waiting for? Got to be the nicest place to meet up with friends in the biggest and most beautiful outdoor beer garden in the city with all of your favorite local beers from Manitoba's best breweries, frozen drinks as well, and of course the incredible food from the fellas over at Cosmos, the food cantina. And as you can see, you can also enjoy the great eats from the Cosmos boys at Next Door at 116 Sherbrooke. And look at those monster sandwiches from Hoagie Boys. I don't think you could possibly pack for a beach day better than a trip to South Osborne or Hoagie Boys. You can follow all of them on Instagram for the latest events and whatnot. And but again, it is a beer can weekend right now with this weather that we've got here in southern Manitoba. Shout out to Royal Sports. Hey, if you're looking for Canada gear or, of course, Bomber gear for your next trip to Princess Auto Stadium, you got to head down to Royal Sports, the sports superstore here in Manitoba for over 40 years. Bomber gear, Jets gear, tons of Canada right around time for the Olympic Games, in addition to new NFL merchandise coming in by the day. And, hey, we got to make the most of the time outside as well. Soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, running, bikes, disc golf. They've got it all at Royal. And for you campers, pop by Royal and check out their amazing Yeti section before you hit the road. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And, of course, some great Olympic action on the tube right now. A big weekend in the Canadian Football League. If you're thinking about a great place to get out of the heat, enjoy a little AC, watch the game, you got to make it your local Boston Pizza. Nowhere better to get together with the gang for the big game than your local BP. Enjoying ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas and more. And, of course, if you can't make it out to BP, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com.
There's us. Again, back tomorrow. And while you're watching here, we do have news. Canada, Cameron Rogers winning gold in hammer throw. So Canada with the twin hammer throw golds. Cameron Rogers in the women and Katzberg with the men. We are a hammer throw nation, and time to be joined by the hammer, Jeff Hamilton. Jeff, has Hammer ever done a hammer throw where you spin around and throw that ball on a string? What a sport.
None of your damn business. That's a personal question. Okay, Remo. I've never done hammer toss. I did shot put in middle school when we had to try all the different positions, all the different Olympics, sports and whatever. Wasn't great at that. Heck of a bocce ball player, but lighter balls and a bit of a different approach as far as strategy goes. But great to hear. We were talking about off camera that they were favored and to come and deliver. I mean, it's fitting I'd be on today, I guess.
Yes, hammer and the hammer throw. Well, we've kind of exhausted all the Olympics for the first hour of the show. We definitely have Olympic fever, but we want to talk Bombers, Jeff. I mean, you got to be feeling pretty good about the Bombers here, shutting out BC heading into the bye. I don't think you could have asked for a better performance than that.
Well, it's funny, right? Because we see it with the Jets. You see it with the Bombers now. You see it in really all professional sports. If you want to change the narrative, it's up to you. And, after weeks, ultimately of disappointment by the Bombers, and really not going anywhere, and certainly not going in the right direction to come up with a victory in the way that they did over a high-powered BC Lions team. Yeah, 3-6 certainly isn't anything to brag about, and to be clear, the Bombers aren't bragging about it, but I do think it brings, injects new life into this team, into the confidence of this team. And as we know about this foul, as we saw as early as last season, you don't really need to rack up the wins to make the playoffs. So even though, the Bombers season was going the opposite direction, and certainly their playoff, hopes or chances were dwindling with each loss, to get a victory like that, to improve to 3-6 at the midway mark of the season. Again, so much to work on, but this is the Bombers are going to be one of those teams that have to embrace this is when the real season starts, because they got to get things going now and quickly, even before Labor Day, which is usually known as that time.
Yeah, 3-6, but hey, Calgary just ahead of you at 4-4, and Saskatchewan within striking distance at 5-3. BC at 5-3. You do have another game against BC and 2 against Saskatchewan. Jeff, you go to the room after games. What were all the players saying? It had to be a sense of relief getting that win, as I think we just lost you. Jeff is on the road right now, heading to, I don't know, Ottawa, Toronto. He's somewhere out east. Oh, he's coming back in. It's loading, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, the Bombers 3-6. And one thing I wanted to ask Jeff about as well is, the Bombers, they had this preseason where I don't know if they really put their best foot forward. They didn't play many of the starters, and you really saw it when they started out the season. They weren't playing at their best for sure. And, a couple games in, are they finding their stride here? Or is things just breaking the right way? I always maintain the Bombers weren't playing that horribly. I don't think it was particularly great, but you looked at some of their games. They lost by what? A final play, overtime. It wasn't like they were getting blown out. They were keeping every game close, and maybe it was close games they would have won before. They weren't quite winning this time. I don't know if Jeff wants me to phone him on the phone or what. Maybe that would work better than trying for video. Connor. Here, I'll bring in Connor for a sec as we wait for Jeff. Oh, wait, here, Jeff's back. Let me just grab him. Okay, hold on, Jeff. Jeff, I can always call you, but you are in the green. Yes, we are live. Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Michael Remis in for Hustler hosting. Jeff, I think I got you back. One sec. Jeff, are you there?
I am here, Remo.
What's going on? Should I just call you on the phone? We are live.
Hey, Remo, they didn't say, what's this? How's the saying go? They didn't say it would be easy. They say it'd be worth it. And I'm not even sure if it's both of those. So give me a shout. Call me. Okay,
want me to phone you? Is that what you're saying on the phone? Okay, I'll just phone him. Connor, I'll bring you in for a sec as I call Jeff. Connor, what do you make of the Bombers here heading into the bye? I think we talked about this off the top, but we can touch on it again. Have to be feeling pretty good here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the fact that all their losses have been close. When you beat a team like BC in the way that they did, that's really impressive. And that is the type of season-changing win that you can have. Not only, last year they got killed by BC and then came back and put up 50 points on them. It was an equally impressive kind of bounce back as that was last year, this year. But on the defensive side of the ball, 102 yards, 4 sacks, a couple turnovers. And Vernon Adams only had 82 passing yards before he left the game. So really impressive game there. And I think, like I said before, they kind of hold their destiny in their own hands here with the schedule. After the Labor Day Banjo Bowl, it lightens up a little bit. But before then, you play BC and Saskatchewan twice, who are the teams that you're chasing in the West Division. They have 5 wins. The Bombers have 3. Coming out of the bye, coming out of an impressive win, maybe getting Kenny Lawler back, Lucky Whitehead looking good. There's a lot to be optimistic about with this team right now. And I think if they can beat BC, next week, then it's game on. And the Labor Day and Banjo Bowl back-to-back is going to be massive. It's likely that they'll split. It seems like they split every single year. The past couple years, the Bombers have actually won a few of the Labor Days and then dominated the Banjo Bowl. But I think these next 4 weeks are crucial. Bombers coming off a huge win, getting healthier. Here's a time where they can roll.
Yeah, Jeff, I got you here. Sorry about that, Jeff. Are you?
No worries,
still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's going on, Jeff? We're talking about what was the mood in the room with the Bombers? Has have to be some relief getting that win over BC.
Sorry about that, Remo. That's on me. As far as the room goes, though, man, it was joy. It certainly was a group of guys that got to celebrate complimentary football. I mean, all three phases contributed. We saw, clearly a defensive effort that's going to go down in history as one of the best performances in a Blue Bombers. For a Blue Bombers defense. And then the offense played well as, of course. I mean, they probably could have got more touchdowns, but they certainly were able to move the ball, dominated in time of possession, and, special teams as well. Sergio Castillo went 6 for 6. I mean, that's, I was going to say that's about as good as it gets, but he's had even better performances this year. So, certainly joy. I don't know if, relief is probably there. It was a little less palpable, but I'm sure if you injected these guys with some truth serum, they would certainly admit how relieving it was, especially going into a bye week and not having to, have to read and hear and listen to what, to all the negativity that's been kind of brewing and building around this team. So yeah, I mean, it was all those emotions and clearly some extra joy. As I mentioned, they were heading off into the bye week, and it's always good to get that victory heading into a break.
Yeah, one player who made their Bombers debut was Lucky Whitehead. Had a touchdown, great in yards after catch. Were you surprised that he had such an impact? And I mean, after watching that, were you like, what took so long to get this guy in?
Certainly felt this, that way about what took so long. I mean, I understand. I mean, I know what took so long. It was learning the playbook, and while I certainly think that was the case, for the first couple weeks, I think Lucky Whitehead. While it was a completely different offense, I mean, completely different. It was different. It wasn't, completely opposite to what Paul Felice had put forward in 2019, but it was different, and it was built upon by Buck Pierce. So there was time, required for him to, for Lucky to learn the offense, to know exactly where he needs to be on every single play. You got to remember that too. This team in particular asked their receivers to do a lot of difficult things and a lot of things in general. And by that, I mean, they need to know all the other receivers' roles and positions so that they can coach them on the field and tell them where to be. So he definitely had to go through that. But, and I do think there was a little bit of, I don't know if it's doubt or maybe there was just certainly question marks around what Lucky Whitehead could still offer. In this league, we saw him take off, ultimately after he left Winnipeg. I'll remind, obviously, the listeners in this case, viewers, that Lucky Whitehead didn't crack the Grey Cup roster. He didn't play much in the playoffs at all. And then, went to BC, became the player that he's more known to be in the league. But that was years ago. And the fact of the matter was he was still on the couch, right? Anyone could have signed him. It was just the Bombers that did. But, to get in there and to perform the way he did, I think he silenced a lot of people who looked at a 32-year-old and thought he was too old and wasn't going to be able to do much. For him to catch all 6 of his targets, to score the lone touchdown in the game, that's the kind of contributions that the Winnipeg offense has needed all season, not just against a good BC Lions team. So yeah, I think you wonder what took so long. But at the end of the day, I think if you're a fan, you're just happy that he's in. But that's the interesting part here too, Remo, is that, is Lucky Whitehead, did he do enough to earn another week in the roster? You would think that he did.
given what I just said, catching all 6 of his targets and scoring the only touchdown. But with Kenny Lawler ready to come back, with Carrick Wheatfall not far behind, and when I say not far behind, I mean, as early as this week, both of them. So what kind of decisions does that leave this offense? Did Josh Johnson do enough in the last game to play ahead of Lucky Whitehead? So there are some decisions to be made. We'll see if Lucky Whitehead can survive those.
Yeah, can we calm down on the Rasheed Bailey to Winnipeg talk? Has that ship sailed with Lucky Whitehead's emergence and Kenny Lawler's expected return?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, if that was to happen, it was gonna happen, immediately after that weekend. I understood not, making the announcement that week and how so CFL that would have been had the Bombers, decide to go that way. And any decision, as Mike O'Shea said ahead of that game against the Argos, that any decision that the team would make would be made after the game. That was true to form. They certainly called him. They've talked to his camp. They know what it's going to take to get him here. I don't think it's going to take a whole heck of a bunch, but again, with Lucky Whitehead now in the mix and those two guys coming back, it just doesn't look like there's enough room, which is still surprising to me, just because of what Rasheed Bailey can bring outside of the on-field performance. You name some of those guys. I mean, Josh Johnson, with all due respect, hasn't done a ton of stuff. I think he did show some flashes against the Lions this past week that maybe warrants another longer look. But you got guys like Kevin Clarkus, who is living the dream right now as a second round draft pick in this past May, getting starting opportunities. And so while there are some names that you could probably take out of the lineup, as I mentioned, Kenny Lawler's back in, Carrick Wheatfall, who before getting injured was the one guy, who was emerging, much like we've seen from Ontario Wilson. And another thing with Mike O'Shea is he likes different body types. So I think he likes a guy, that long kind of, receiver that Carrick Wheatfall is. That being said, I mean, Rasheed Bailey brings, that, as I was alluding to, that those other things like the blocking on the line, that even before he got released from Toronto, Ryan Dinwiddie was gushing over him literally the week before he got released about his abilities at the line of scrimmage. And that's something that, we know the Bombers could use from a receiver. We know that's what Rasheed Bailey brought them, in the years that he was here in Winnipeg. And of course, his, the kind of guy he is and what he brings to the locker room. That's one of the things that, I think is being not underreported per se, but, maybe just underappreciated or not really fully understood, is the losses of Jamarcus Hardrick and Rasheed Bailey and Jackson Jeffcoat, not just for what they did on the field, but off it. And, Rasheed Bailey would bring a spark to this team, bring some joy to this team. So clearly the Bombers feel like they don't need him. Clearly they feel like, whatever he brings, they can get in-house, if you will. But, I'm thinking right now it's not going to happen for Winnipeg. And, I guess for, to the angst of Bomber fans, I'm sure is, what I don't think it's going to be very long before he is with the team. I just think we're going to have to see maybe some injuries before some movement happens.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the offense, but how about that defense? They've really come along here in the last couple of games, shutting down BC, shutting down Toronto. I mean, they had their backup QB, so did Saskatchewan. But you have to be impressed the way the defense has responded after Vernon Adams and BC just went up and down the field on them in that first meeting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, as I wrote in my post-game column, I mean, put your hand up if you thought the Bombers were going to beat the BC Lions, let alone, dismantle this team. A team that, as you alluded to, Remo, was a high-powered offense under Vernon Adams, leading the league in offensive points and offensive yards and passing yards, all those things that ultimately the Bombers offense used to be doing year in and year out. I kind of felt like Vernon Adams' year finally this season, and so to limit him to the 74 yards that he played before he got injured, and we'll see what happens here with BC now, because it looks like Vernon Adams is going to be out, at least a couple weeks. I know there were some reports maybe back, maybe better news than that, but it certainly didn't look good. And anytime you can't finish a game, and your coach is talking about weeks instead of months, it's still not a good situation. But the dominance was insane. I mean, 4 first downs. I've never seen that, and there is a reason why I haven't seen that, because I think it tied an all-time record for the Bombers organization. I think they've done it like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe at most other times in their long history. and then one short of the league record. I think BC Lions, I think it was in the 50s and the 70s, and again in the 70s, they were able to eliminate an opponent to 3 first downs. And as anyone who's followed this game or even just understands history, this CFL game looked a lot different way back then, where there was a little bit more of a ground attacking games. In today's day and age, with just with all the rules that have come into place, especially almost every single one not only benefits but almost flatters the offense. To limit a team to that, and certainly I don't have the exact numbers for time of possession, but it was embarrassing. I think the Bombers had something like 42 minutes of with the ball, and that's just astronomical. So just kudos to the defense, and it's something that they've been doing all season long, giving this team an opportunity to win week in and week out, and save for maybe a couple of performances this year. To go out there and downright do it all themselves. By shutting out a team, and that was, ironically, I don't have it. You don't have to look back as deep to the last time the Bombers blanked a team. They shut out the BC Lions 45-0, and as recent as 2021. But still, those are rare. Shutouts are rare, and ultimately, when your defense does that, there's absolutely no excuse to lose that game. So just absolutely historic in all in all different accounts, and just pure dominance. And for it to come at a time against the BC Lions that were, again, leading the league in all those offensive categories, I think it not only surprised people, but shocked them for just how dominant they were.
Yeah, time of possession officially 41-52 for the Bombers, 18-08. And there were so many stats, and like every trend that you thought about the Bombers was reversed. They got pressure on the quarterback with four sacks. They didn't allow any sacks after getting, burned very badly in the game against the Argos. BC had 1 sack. The offense was able to move the ball. Sergio missed 2 against Toronto when it was 6 for 6. I mean, I don't know what to. It's funny. I'm so confused. Like, I've always had trouble ranking them because I thought they were better than their record. I guess we'll have to see. They got an easier schedule in the second half of the second half playing Edmonton, but they got some big games coming up against BC and Saskatchewan. So I'm not really sure what to make of this team here going forward.
Man, welcome to the CFL. Like that's the wild thing. I mean, just look at this weekend. I mean, look at any weekend, and it's hard to predict these games. Teams have, it's any given Sunday. Of course, when it comes to football, when you only play one game a week, you work hard all week to try to compete against that one opponent, and it's difficult for teams to win on the road. You hear that all the time. I mean, but it just didn't make any sense for this result. I mean, it would have been surprising again if Winnipeg had won the game, let alone delivered an absolute beatdown. And even when we haven't even talked about the fact that Winnipeg was on a short week, having to play on a Thursday, and the BC Lions were coming off a bye week. They were refreshed. They had Keon Hatcher back in the lineup, whereas the Bombers added 2 more players to the 6-game injured list in Patrick Neufeld and Drew Wolotarski. That's another thing. I thought that the O-line, Sans Neufeld, sturdy veteran at the right guard position beside a fairly new right tackle in Eric Lofton as far as how many games he's played in this league. They to play the way that they played, to get Brady Oliveira create the holes that they were able to, getting him 100 yards on the ground. It was a complete beatdown. One of the other thing as you were talking, Remo, about the defense, was I think I'd have to kind of double check this, but I'm fairly sure about these stats. I think the Lions had like 11 series. 8 of them were 2-and-outs. One of them was a Tyrell Ford interception. The other was a turnover on downs. And I believe the last drive was they just ran out the last 90 seconds. And even, they end up getting a first down with it and just kind of, running it out. So if that doesn't sum up just pure dominance, I don't even think dominance, does it justice, to be quite frank, on how the defense played. But those are the kind of games that can galvanize a team. Those are the kind of games that can inject confidence and certainly can help in the film room when you go over the games. I can only imagine what it was like to go through the film, following that Argos game where, the guys just, couldn't hold on to the ball. I mean, that's tough to go through. So all those things kind of lets you breathe a little bit. And, but Mike O'Shea said this right at the end of the game. I asked him about it. What does this mean for this team, for this, this club in this particular season? And he said absolutely nothing. If they don't treat their bye week, getting ready for this upcoming rematch, if you will, against the BC Lions, if they don't treat their bodies well, if they don't, put in, he's not asking them to be rifling through the playbook or going through the rigors that you would be on any other week that you'd be playing. But he is saying it's not a free, go celebrate and party for a week. So we'll see what kind of team comes back this next week here, gets ready for a tough, again, rematch, a rubber match, if you will. The final game of a 3-game season series will be a big one. I don't think the Bombers will probably catch the Lions, but if they do have that in their sights, things go sideways for BC, it will certainly help them. So we'll see what happens here, but it is one of those kind of games that you can look back on and go, wow, I think that turned our season around. But you got to make it worth it.
Yeah, I mean, the stats, talked about it on Friday, so the stats coming out are incredible. And again, every trend that you thought about the Bombers certainly reversed. BC playing Edmonton this weekend, and on Sunday the 18th, the Bombers will travel to BC. You mentioned home road splits. The Bombers do not have a win on the road. 0-4, but I mean, they've been close. I think Calgary overtime, Ottawa final play in a weird weather delayed game. In the red zone, you're not able to convert. So, Toronto, where they just fumbled away the game. It's been strange, and Saskatchewan too. So they've certainly been right there. Just haven't had it. I know there's going to be a ton of CFL topics tomorrow on CFL 110 with you and Hustler, Jeff. But, I mean, what's going to be the top story? Is it going to be Trey Ford leading the Elks to their first win, or the Command Center, which seems to be not able to get it right even with review? Did you want to touch on one of those?
Man, it's all the above, bro. I mean, those are certainly two big ones. I mean, you can look at, we just broke it down, but the Bombers are a big story. We probably won't go too much on CFL 110 just because of our Winnipeg bias on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But, all of it, man. I mean, the Command Center, it still remains a head scratcher. Trey Ford coming in and playing the way that he played this week, gives the Elks new life. We talked about this last week. It might sound crazy to the fan that doesn't quite watch or follow the CFL, but you put together a streak of a few wins and you're back in that conversation, much like we're seeing with Winnipeg right now. So that's also a big one. And lots of great games this week to break down. I mean, the Calgary Stampeders, man, I still don't know who and what they are. And, they find a way to get it done. Is Toronto, are they getting Chad Kelly soon? What's their season going to look like here in the near future? Has Chad Kelly done enough to get, reinstated back into the league? So it's just something about this league, man. There's just always drama. There's always something to talk about. There's always a story to break down and marvel at. A game that, should have gone a certain way that just went completely opposite. That's more of the norm in this league rather than the exception. So we'll look into all that and more, as me and Huss break it down in CFL 110 again tomorrow. It's real tough. Tell your friends.
Yeah, check it out tomorrow, CFL 110. Search for it on podcast, or it will be here on the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube. It is August 6th, so we do, perfect time for some hockey discussion. What did you think of Frank Cervelli's report on him with Jason Gregor last week that the Jets and Carolina talking about a trade for Marty Necas, and Frank saying the Jets offered Perfetti, Rutger, and a pick, and Scott Billick saying, no, it was Carolina who wanted Perfetti. The Jets didn't offer him, and Perfetti, of course, an RFA. We're on Perfetti watch, waiting for him to get signed. Did you have any thoughts on Frank's report with him and Jason Gregor?
Yeah, surprised not at all. I mean, the Jets have been reported to be sniffing around Carolina for some time, and I don't think anybody would be shocked by the Jets shopping Rutger McGroarty, that's for sure. And I don't know if there'd be a lot of dropped chins from finding out that Cole Perfetti was being perhaps shopped, and whether it was a request from another team who goes, hey, well, what's going on with this Cole Perfetti kid? He couldn't make he couldn't crack the lineup at the end of the year. He was on the cusp of 20 goals. I mean, do you like him? Like, if you're a team like Carolina, you you'd be buying Cole Perfetti at I wouldn't say an all-time low, but a low to be sure. So it would make sense to have his name out there. And the other thing I'd say to this, guys, is holy smokes, trades get tossed out all over the place. Names get tossed out all over the place. Guys are constantly being asked about, added, erased. Like these negotiations can go on for weeks, sometimes months, and stop and stall. And so, those names don't surprise me. None of those assets surprise me that would be in the mix, especially for a player of Netch's caliber. So, it didn't pan out. Just like a lot of things die on the trade floor. We can speculate on where Cole Perfetti is, where he stands with this organization, but clearly he's involved as somebody who needs to take Searle needs to sign a contract, but, needs to be looking at these next few years here as big years for him and for the Winnipeg Jets. So, whether he stays here in Winnipeg or is dealt, I think he understands that he needs to be taking the right steps in the right direction next season.
Yeah, Cole Perfetti. We're on Perfetti watch. We'll see what happens with his next contract. Still unsigned. Counting down. We'll wait and see what happens. But, Jeff, I can't wait for more of you with Hustler tomorrow on CFL 110. Thanks so much. Glad we could make this work and get you here on the phone.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks for pulling it on, or I guess I pulled the audible and you adjusting accordingly. Always appreciate being on. And, I'll be looking forward to breaking it all down with Huss tomorrow.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot, Jeff. There he is, Jeff Hamilton, Winnipeg Free Press. He's on Twitter, now known as X, at Jeff K. Hamilton. One other Winnipeg team, their season came to a close on Friday, the Winnipeg Sea Bears. We're going to hear from Hustler, and then we'll be joined by Joey Slattery, Sea Bears broadcaster, on the Sea Bears' second season. Here's one more from Huss.
Of course, our Breezy Bend golf reports, courtesy of Corey and the gang down at Breezy. If you're thinking about making Breezy Bend one of Winnipeg's top private courses, your long-term home for you and your family, talk to Corey Johnson at the clubhouse about some membership options for the upcoming season. And if you're looking for an unbelievable venue to host a wedding or an event, Breezy Bend's the spot. Find out more online at breezybend.ca. We'll shout out our pals over at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, just over a month away from my favorite few days of the year. Aikens Lake, the fly-in fishing lodge in Manitoba, where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg with world-class fishing. I've been going on their Instagram lately and just seeing the hogs that are being pulled out of that lake. Cannot wait for it. And as great as the fishing is, the hospitality from the Turenne family and the Aikens team, even better. AikensLake.com for more information on the lodge, options for this year. You can also hit them up on, send a message on any of the social platforms at Aikens Lake.
There's us. As I said, he'll be back tomorrow. He's fishing. We've gone over it. Shore lunch. What do they call it? Master angler. All the things. Let's talk Sea Bears. A little basketball. Joey Slattery, Sea Bears broadcaster. Joey, what's going on? How was your long weekend?
Oh, it was good. I had a buddy up. My old university roommate was up. So I was touring him around Winnipeg, selling him on the city. He loved it. Went to the Forks, Goldeyes game. And everything was good. The weekend was great. And then, just the disappointment with the Sea Bears not able to pull off that win. And then Canada today not pulling off the win either. So not a great start to the week, really, from a basketball perspective. But all in all, it's good.
Very, very nice. Well, here, I'll talk a little Canada basketball. I mean, got to be a disappointing finish there to their Olympic tournament, losing to France. It seemed like they were behind and could never just make up ground. They got close, but they weren't making shots and they weren't getting any rebounds.
Well, the rebounds killed them at the end. I mean, and I know people are complaining about the officiating, but this is nothing new with FIBA, right? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens. They're in a hostile environment. Like, it's not that they're just playing France, it's that they're playing France in France, right? And the crowd and atmosphere sounded insane. I know these are professional basketball players, but so are the basketball players on France. They have a lot of NBA guys too. They got to the line way more often. I think at halftime it was like 25 trips to the line for France, which is insane for a half. I mean, that's like a total game's worth, and sometimes you don't even get that high, only to 8 for Canada. But, I have to give them credit, though. they really fought back and made a game of it. It came close, but at the end, they just couldn't get the rebounds. You wonder if Zach Edey was there, that might have been a huge help, having a 7-footer, to go up with Wemby. But we have to remind ourselves that this is a team that has not been in the Olympics for 24 years, right? To tell me that they went into the group of death, the hardest group of the Olympics, and sweep it 3-0, only to lose in the quarterfinals to a really good host team, I think there's a lot to be proud of there. And I think it's a very positive step forward for the men's program. I mean, me personally, I feel it reinvigorated basketball, the men's program, particularly from the World Cup qualifiers and how well they played there to, right up to the Olympics and how it came to an end. I know we were all hoping for a medal, but that is something that if you told me this 10 years ago, I would hope we had a medal or at least a shot at a medal, and we put ourselves in a good position. Canada did, and just wasn't able to pull it off. But I think this is something that's a huge positive step for the program and very promising looking forward. So I have to take that with a grain of salt. It's disappointing. It felt like a slow burn at the end. Couldn't get those rebounds, couldn't turn on it, and then suddenly you're down in a game that you came within 5 points, just couldn't get over the hump. But it was a really, really good run for this team.
For sure. I know there's going to be talk about the officiating, but when you can't do stuff like make shots and get rebounds, I went over Jamal Murray's numbers earlier. Dylan Brooks, not great from the floor. It's going to be tough, and I feel like FIBA rules seems to always be against Canada. There's always strange stuff going on.
Yeah, and I mean, Dylan Brooks, I almost feel bad for him because it's funny because he's such a villain in the NBA. And then you love to have him on your team when he's with Canada. He's probably one of my favorite, if not one of my favorite Canadian players for sure. He had huge games in the World Cup and really carried that team through to the success that they had, but he just couldn't get it going today. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander took some time to get going as well. And Jamal Murray has not looked good, even in the playoffs this year. He's not where he was, even when they made their run to the finals or to the championship, I should say, back in 23 with Denver. So, I don't know if it was just the long season coming off that injury. He didn't play to, I think, the level we would have liked to have seen him play. You wonder if Andrew Wiggins was there, is there a difference? I don't know. But yeah, it's tough with the officiating, but this is something you have to play through. And for sure, I mean, there's one that I remember, the Dwight Powell draws a charge and he's called for a block. And I'm looking at him like, I don't know how you call that a block. He's above the restricted area, feet are planted. But it's the stuff that you have to play through in FIBA. And sometimes it does roll in your favor, right? So that's the thing. It's at some point it's going to come around. It's a bad time to have a badly officiated game. But again, I think there was a lot more to it. Like you can put some of it on the officiating, but the rebounding, that's not an officials thing. I mean, that's just I wouldn't even say an effort. The effort was there. They just couldn't match. I mean, you have Wemby, right? Victor Wembanyama from France, who's just a monster. I mean, this guy is a challenge because even when he's not scoring, there's so much focus on this guy that other guys are getting open looks, and he's such a versatile player for his size. I mean, there's a reason why there's so much hype around this guy, and it makes you think France is going to be scary too. I mean, they've got some older guys that are on their way out by the next Olympics, but I wonder what's coming in and what impact he's having out in France. But the same can be said here. I mean, we had one of the best players in the world. Many would argue he should have been the MVP this year, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but there's some great players. You look at, Greece lost, and, they had the Greek freak, Antetokounmpo. Serbia has Jokic. So it's a really, basketball's in a really good place globally. But yeah, Canada, it's something to hang your hat on for me anyway. Quarterfinals, if you told me that at the start of this year, or even at the Olympics with the group that they had, I think I'd be happy with that.
All right, moving on from Canada, Joe, we got to talk about the local club, Sea Bears. Season 1, huge success, record crowds, hosted a playoff game, leading to big expectations. They had a big off season, but coming up just short here. Didn't host a playoff game. Went to Calgary, lost. It was next basket wins, weren't able to. What'd you make of the follow-up season for the Sea Bears? Did they live up to those high expectations?
Definitely not. I mean, I think you could ask anybody on the team, Mike Taylor included. I mean, this was a team that came in, on paper as one of the best. I think everybody had it on at least their top 3 teams in the league this year as power rankings or whatever heading into the season. The roster changed a lot. This was a strange season. This is, when I say strange season, this is a little bit more normal for the CEBL, like the high turnover, but it was the players they turned over right? Like Teddy Allen, no one could have saw that coming, that he was going to get cut by the end of the, halfway through the season, or released, I should say, halfway through the season. Your marquee player in, Byron Mullins, and with the marquee tag comes some, leniency with the salary cap. It doesn't go against the cap for the league. And, you put a lot of time and investment in that player, and everything looks great. It looks like all the holes are filled. And then, suddenly those two guys go, and you're kind of scrambling and putting players together. And I know, Mike Taylor had talked about on the post-game show, it is difficult when you're mid-season trying to be, he's the GM and the head coach. So you're trying to get everything ready as the head coach, but you're also looking for, players to fill spots. And, I could say that he did a good job. You look at the talent that he brought in, Justin Wright Foreman, for instance. I mean, what a great pickup that was. I know that was someone they wanted throughout the offseason, and it just didn't work out. But then he comes in and, he played well for the most part, did what he does. But at the end of the day, this team's identity, regardless of whether it was with Teddy and Byron Mullins or without, this team never won on the road. And, there was progression, and Mike Taylor would talk about that and very optimistic about it. But the thing is even though we saw that progression, the last two road games, they played pretty well against Calgary the first game. Then they went to Edmonton. It was another close game that they couldn't close out, but you felt like, okay, maybe they're making that progression at the right time, right? They're not wins. Yes, they won one game on the road this year, not good, but you thought, well, maybe there's something there. They're familiar with Calgary. The rosters are the same. Calgary did not have Stephen Smith, who's been, great off the bench, like their leading scorer. And they just let the game get behind early. They were outscored, I think it was 28-12 in the first quarter. And then they outscored Calgary every other quarter, but couldn't make up that difference. And then as soon as it came down to it, next basket wins, they got some timely stops, timely rebounds. And then when they drew up the play, inbounding the ball under the basket with a chance to win the game, they turned the ball over. Calgary goes the other way and hits a mid-range jump shot to clinch their spot in the semifinals, and now the conference semifinals. Now they're off to the conference finals in Vancouver after beating Edmonton. So a good team, Calgary is, but that was the identity of this team. They couldn't figure out how to seal it on the road, and it came back to bite them at the worst possible time. And you talk about the records broken from that perspective. Very successful season because they broke all the records they set last year. I think they had just over 11,000 people at the last game of the year, which eclipses last year's record. I think it was 10,500. For the playoff game. The atmosphere was unreal. Every single game was entertaining. I don't know if that's, any kind of consolation because, it's, you don't want to win all these games from behind. And I think there's, I said, take it with a grain of salt. They're winning these games and there's some character to that, but they're also putting themselves in awful positions late in games to try and win. But they had some exciting games at home. They played really well at home at 8-2 this year. But the big question now is, what does this team look like next year? Next year, Winnipeg is hosting championship weekend. So this is going to be a team that Mike Taylor is going to want to put together, an elite team that is complete. Where are the holes? And this is going to be a long, hard look for him this offseason. It's just where did we go wrong? What is going to be the contingency plan if something like last year happens again? How are we going to approach our star player? Are we bringing guys back? Who are we bringing back? Who are we not? And, I think a lot of guys, maybe it was because of the roster turnover, but I think a lot of the guys were kind of confused with what their roles were and how they were being deployed. And I don't think there was any real comfort in that. So part of me wonders, how many guys are going to want to come back, probably thinking it was going to go one way and it went another. So it'll be interesting to see what players are going to want to come back to the team next year, what options are out there. Because we've got to remember, too, this is a summer league. So it's not that they might leave the Sea Bears to go play somewhere else. They might just take the summer off and start focusing on their winter leagues, right? So but there's a lot of work ahead to figure out, what went wrong on the court, even when you had everything that you had set up, and how do we fix that? Because next year, fans are going to be, I think fans this year we noticed are a little bit more, on edge with this stuff. There was a little more disappointment when they left. There was a little more frustration, especially when Teddy Allen got released. Next year, it's going to be even more with championship weekend. People are going to expect Winnipeg to be in that tournament, and the league still has not determined, at least to my knowledge, whether Winnipeg will get a bye next year. There was talk that they take away the bye, which has been the last few years where, Montreal had the worst record in the league, but they're in the conference finals because they're hosting this year, championship weekend 24. So if that's the case and they pull that off the table, Winnipeg's going to have to earn their spot. And there's a lot of work to be done there because you have to learn to win on the road. Huge to have your home crowd behind you. And I would make the argument that it's not that much of an advantage because every player in the league wants to play in Winnipeg in front of this atmosphere, the NBA-like atmosphere, 7,500 to 11,000 people. They're bringing their best. They don't need to be motivated for the Winnipeg game. But I think Winnipeg has to find a way to motivate themselves on the road and create that energy. And it's just something they struggled with all year.
Yeah, Sea Bears finishing 9-11 record, 8-2 at home, like you said, 1-9 on the road. And yes, big year coming up with championship weekend here. And we did have Mike Morreale on in the past, and I think Hustler brought that up to him, and he mentioned, well, it might not be the case. So as you said, up in the air if the host city is going to come on. I mean, when you look back on this season, it has to be, I mean, I don't know, defined, but the major storyline is, Teddy Allen, your MVP, cutting him. Byron Mullins, the big offseason acquisition, didn't work out. I mean, could they have foreseen that happening after what happened in year one?
It's hard to say. Like in year one, I think the difference was you had a bunch of guys who were a little younger, right? I think they were leaning on each other a little more, didn't really know what to expect with the summer league. A lot of guys were making their CEBL debuts. And I think there was a lot of, Teddy had that clear role. Like immediately it was acknowledged that this is the guy that's going to lead the way. Everybody else kind of had a defined role. I mean, Jelani Watson-Gale was the closer. Here was a guy that, was used sparingly throughout the game because of the rules. There's a reminder for people that may not know, it's kind of like the CFL. You have to have two Canadians on the floor at all times. So, to have that work out, they would take Jelani off often and put Glenn Yang in. But Jelani was the guy they called the closer. He knew that was his time to shine. He was getting the ball for the shot, and everything kind of worked out. You had a guy like EJ Anasike, who was, tough on the boards. He was a big paint presence, but could step out every now and again to take the three. And everybody knew it was Teddy Allen, and the offense went through him. And I know it can be difficult to play with Teddy because, he's a hooper. He's a guy that is going to see the floor the way he sees the floor for times to score. And it can be hard to get used to for some players. But I think there was just more definition to the roles with those guys. This one, a more experienced team. I think there was a little bit of hype around Teddy. Like I'm curious to see, I don't think Mike Taylor would say it openly, but, giving the keys and openly saying that, that it was Teddy's team and everybody coming in knowing it was Teddy's team. That was the first time Teddy had returned to a team. Like if you look at Teddy's track record, he usually goes to a new team every year. So I don't know how much that played a factor with just the mentality of it and working through that. But you look at the team that they had on paper and the experience. I mean, Jared Ogabemi-Jackson, here's a guy who's played, close to a decade overseas. Byron Mullins, was a first-round draft pick. Justin Wright Foreman, a second-round draft pick in the NBA. And, you think it would have it there. But I think there's a lot of guys that had roles that they were established in for longer periods of time. It was altered here in a way they might not have been comfortable with or weren't able to adapt to or as quick enough. And one thing Mike Taylor said in the post-game show on Sea Bears post-game live after that game was, I wish I had more time. He even said it pregame, actually, in his pregame availability. He's like, I wish I had more time with this team. We're really starting to click. But the problem is you don't have more time. This is a league that is very short, or a season that's very short. It's, it starts at the end of May. It wraps up this weekend in mid-August. You've got 20 games to figure it out. And, anywhere as little as 2 playoff games to as many as 4 playoff games. And they just couldn't get it figured out on time. So that's the big difference for me. It's just I thought the experience might be a positive in this one, but I think there was just a little disruption with guys that, kind of looked at what was going on, unsure of their roles, also probably not happy with the way things were playing and the difficulty at the start of the season with all the, the stuff we saw blow up in that home game against Edmonton where, like fights were breaking out on the bench and stuff. So, they moved past that, and to their credit, they went on that 4-game win streak right after. But they just couldn't get a run like that again. And it's, it was tough. All the games were at home that they played really well, and they were in stretches, right? It was 4 games, 2 games, whatever. But then they'd go on the road and just couldn't get that magic, that Canada Life Center magic at any other arena. And to make matters worse, they're particularly bad in Calgary. I mean, they're 0-4, maybe 0-5 now at the playoff game since last year. So the Winsport Arena in Calgary is a place where they still haven't even won a game. So yeah, things were working against them in that one for sure. And give Calgary credit. I mean, Calgary held on. They fought through it as well. This is a team that had turmoil at the start of the season. They started 0-3. They lost their coach about 6 weeks before the season was starting. He went to Rice University. And then they brought in Terrell Vernon from Dalhousie. And he did a great job getting these guys to buy in, figuring out what the identity was, and going on a run and building up as the season went on. And now they're up against Vancouver. I don't think they're going to beat Vancouver. Vancouver's a very strong team and impressed me a lot, but stranger things have happened. And right now, Calgary's feeling pretty good because they got the win against Winnipeg. That was hard-earned, and they almost lost it. They went into Edmonton. That's their big foe, right? The Battle of Alberta, and they beat Edmonton in Edmonton. And now they're feeling good going to Montreal and neutral ground against Vancouver. But, I got to give them props too, because they had their own adversity this season. It just started earlier, and they were able to recover in time.
Perfect. Joey nailed it on the Canada Olympic basketball. Sea Bears, disappointing year for them. Bigger year next year. Year 3 championship year here. That should be fun. That should be fun at Canada Life Center. Joey, great talking. You hope to do this again in the future. Thanks for making some time for us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.
Always, anytime. Give me a shout. I'm happy to jump on.
Appreciate it. There he is, Joey Slattery. Follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, Joey Slattery TV, putting up some great Sea Bears and basketball-related content. Thanks again, Joey, for your time. We're winding down the show. Going to bring back in Connor Hrabchak as he turns on his camera, hit up the cool belt lines. Connor, what's going on? You watched that 200-meter there, 200-meter final just now?
No, I didn't. Did something happen? Did we win?
No, it's just a premier race. So hold on.
Okay.
I forget who won, but the American won. 100 meter, 200 meter, always a highlight for me. I think the 100 meter is like the premier main event race, which is probably why they put it on the Saturday. But a number of we'll hit up the cool belt lines here. A number of things tonight to touch on. Do they have CFL lines? No Bombers in action. Ottawa favored by Saskatchewan by 2. We'll see who's Saskatchewan's at quarterback. Toronto favored over Calgary in the rematch by 1. Montreal 7.5 favorites over Hamilton. And Edmonton 1-point favorite over BC. I guess BC's going with Jake Dolagala at quarterback. What do you make of these lines for CFL Week 10?
That is quite something. I mean, I guess, yeah, like you said, if Dolagala is the QB and Trey Ford just beat Saskatchewan on the road, Edmonton at home is just scary, though. Like, you hear Joey Slattery talk about the effect of Canada Life Center with the Sea Bears. It's almost like the opposite effect when the Elks play at home. They just I don't know, they get drained by their fans or the lack thereof because they haven't won there in so long. But the interesting one to me is the fact Ottawa is favored over Saskatchewan. We don't know who their quarterback is, like you said. We're going to be dropping our CFL power rankings either tomorrow or Thursday on the Winnipeg Sports Talk Instagram. And I'm interested to see where Ottawa ends up when we all submit our picks, because they're winning games. And if they beat Saskatchewan this week, the East is maybe a little bit better than the West we've seen so far this year. I think a lot of people are going to start to respect them a lot more. And Drew Brown is killing it over there. Yeah,
Drew Brown doing a great job for all. I think I would still have the Bombers ahead of them. I've had the Bombers over Calgary most of the year, but as Jeff said, Calgary's very confusing. I don't know what to make of them. MLB still going. We're post trade deadline. The Jays plus 125 underdogs against the Orioles. We can check Olympic basketball. They don't have any updated futures. We do have the USA winning 40-26 over Brazil, but minus 28.5 in-game favorites right now. Do you see Bruno Caboclo? He's balling for Brazil.
He's balling. He's going to carry the team and have the biggest upset ever.
Former Raptors, first round pick, who famously 2 years away from being 2 years away. We can look at here. One more odds here. 200 meter men. That's on Thursday. Noah Lyles minus 714 favorite. Andre DeGrasse, he's plus 4,000. You can also bet on Andre DeGrasse, who's in the semifinal, qualify into the final. That is minus 222. I think he'll get in. We got CBL, UFC. I don't think there's any NHL offseason futures. You can bet on the Jets to win the Cup, Connor. You want to throw it in now? That's actually lower than I thought. Hey, 25-1. I thought they would be
Yeah,
closer to
up there with the Bruins. That's pretty. Yeah,
same as the Bruins.
Yeah.
Senators plus 35. Want to look at little August 6th cup odds. Jets to win the West plus 1250. So look, hey, they almost did it last year. I'm curious to what happens with the Jets. I think they're going to need another Vezina season from Connor Hrabchak for any of that to come true if they were to be West contenders or Cup contenders. I mean, what would that team do if he ever got injured? It's amazing how he's never had. No, I'm knocking on wood right now, but we've never had an extended stretch with him out of the lineup.
Yeah, he is the backbone of the team. And I am interested, those West playoff odds, clearly they think that the Jets have taken a step back, which is pretty much in line with, what all of us have been saying as well with the departures. And there's a lot up to kind of question on the opening night roster lineup and which prospects might crack the lineup. What I'm interested to see, it's not up yet, but eventually they'll have their over-under point totals. Those I lean more towards looking at those rather than outright winning the cup or winning the West or things like that. The over-under wins, the over-under points, I feel can get really interesting. Sometimes the Jets last year, if you had their over wins, points, whatever, you cashed. So this year I want to see where they line up in the West and what the odds makers think, how far they took a step back this offseason.
Yeah, we'll get to some more projections and all that as we go towards training camp and the season. But interesting to look at where we are. Edmonton, they have the favorite. Florida as well. They're the top two. Carolina, interestingly, plus 1,100 in New Jersey, plus 1,200. There's Dallas, Rangers, Avalanche, who did make a signing, Oliver Shillington. I thought that was a nice 1-year deal for them. We do have women's Olympic golf futures. We had the men's, Scotty Scheffler winning over the weekend. And I don't even know who's representing Canada. Is it Brooke Henderson? I was assuming, but I don't see her. I don't see her on the list. I haven't been keeping up with the women's tour. Oh, there she is. She's in there. Plus 1,600, Brooke Henderson. So nice. To win. That's an interesting one. Representing Canada. It is race night, Connor. We had Manitoba Derby yesterday. Biggest handle on the Derby in history. I think the moving to Monday to Wednesday for live racing has been a huge benefit. I'm in the Assiniboia Downs YouTube channel. A lot of people in there speaking Spanish, getting that overseas betting, international betting, because, I don't know how many other tracks are going on Monday to Wednesday. But here, Hustler and I, he's away. We do our duel at the Downs. We're going head to head. I got a huge lead. I don't know, race one, leaning, I think Ride 'em was one we always pick. Race two, Maybella at 10-1. I've bet on Maybella so many times. Who do we else we got? Race three. I wasn't too sure. GM Foxy is the big favorite there. Pick and Riffs has been one we've touched a lot in race four. Who else? Double Caroba is the betting favorite. Race 5. What do we got here? Midnight Lady, Zorina, the favorite. Race 6. Which one did I like? Wit Sweet 16, long shot, but the favorite is I Could Be the One. And race 7, the favorite is, who is it? Life's Adventure. Isn't that accurate, eh? Hey, Connor.
Isn't that the truth?
As we wind down the show, Connor, what's on tap for you? Big plans this evening?
Big plans this evening? No. I know my dad is heading to Billy Idol, I think.
I know.
Concert here, yes. Well, I meant I think it's tonight. Yes, Tuesday. I've got all my days mixed up like you off the top of the show. But yeah, I'm on DD duty for that. So that's my job for tonight. That's about all. How about you?
Yeah, Billy, it's my son's has birthday Friday. Big party at our household, getting ready. So I gotta go. We have a lot of kids over here, but yeah, Billy Idol, man, 68 years old, still giving her. I think you're a little young for Billy Idol, Connor, but he's got a number of bangers, and I had it circled on my calendar, but I don't think I'll be able to make it tonight.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
that's it for the show. Connor, great job. I know we'll be seeing more of you here on our YouTube channel, Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Thank you so much for your contributions at today's show. And hey, if anyone out there missed it, check out Connor's top 5 and top 10 Winnipeg Jets prospects available here on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, thank you so much, Remo. And I'll plug one more thing. It's coming out soon, so stay tuned, maybe in the next week or so. But I know a lot of people liked the first episode of WST Deep Dive. Les Hood and I are planning for the second episode. It'll be out in the next week or two, so stay tuned for that. I'm not going to reveal who the player is, but super excited to do another episode of that.
Ooh, another deep dive. Oh, I can't wait. That one was awesome on Colby Barlow. So we can't wait to see. But I got to go. We'll see everyone. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Hustler will be back tomorrow. Great show coming up. So stay tuned. And again, if you enjoyed the content, hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel. I'll see you guys soon. And bye-bye.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.